alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Welcome to the show. This is part 2 of the same bike build. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch that. If you're interested in any of the items that I'm using in this video, such as the tools or the bike parts, I list all of them in the description for your convenience. And this is a long video, so I've actually divided it into 6 parts, and I'll keep that posted at the top of the screen. It's just so you can easily navigate through it. So the first thing I want to mention is that in the last video I had some problems with the threadless headset from Samebike that came with it originally on the front fork. The issue that I had was that the race was still on the old fork and I didn't realize it, and I got a race remover, and once I got that off I was able to figure out how it all was supposed to go back together, and everything worked fine. Ended up getting a new threadless headset, which you're going to see in the video. If you wanted to use the original threadless headset, you won't have any issues, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Bottom race, dust cap, bottom bearing, that would go through like so. We're going to put on our bearing, your dust cap, your race, and we're going to put on this rubber gasket, and then that goes on top like that. Okay, so we're going to put on our rear air shock. We're going to take out this cheap plastic spring and we're going to replace it with the D&M air shock that I got. So we actually need this through axle that came from the original one that was in the bike, because it's a very specific size to match this bike. So it's the one thing we're actually going to steal from this. And then the other part of that is we actually need to remove this one from here so that we can put that in there. Is we're going to take this little head that comes from a ratchet set and some vice grips. And we're going to put it right in there and hammer it out. All right, we got this ready to go. Top bracket is now the correct size. We're gonna put it into the bike. Okay, we've got the air shock in now, and we are going to actually pump it up with some air. Now you have the main air chamber, and then you have the negative air chamber. So I need to set this to 150, and then the bottom one's gonna be set to 70. I'll try to remove this. So we finally got this little pain in the butt off and get a good look at it from both sides here. Had to use the old hammer because it was on there pretty good. And now you get a look at the model number on this motor. Alright, so we got the Shimano MFTZ 507 Mega Range here. See the So these two, they look, fairly similar, but I think the biggest difference, obviously other than the large gear, seems to be on the back side. So we've got our wheel all ready to go with all the nuts in place, and we've got a wrench here. So make sure you get all of these pieces exactly the way they're supposed to go. We finally got the wire pulled through coming from the motor. So all we now have to do is get this wire properly connected back to our controller, and then we can close everything up. So we finally got the back wheel, motor, and the wiring taken care of. So now we're going to move on to getting the front suspension taken care of. We have the whole bearing system here. It's like $7 on Amazon. Cartridge bearing, threadless headset, and then this is your bottom race that the bearing's going to be engaged by. And that's going to go on there, and then we need to hammer it in with this here. First, we're going to grease it all up. Okay, now we need to remove the bearing cups that are inside the head tube. Now we're going to install the new bearing cups for the threadless headset. We'll get this tool we got from Amazon. Now we're just gonna finish lubricating up this front suspension, and then we're just gonna put everything together. Okay, so we got this crank puller on here, and that's the tool you're going to need if you want to get this bottom bracket off and put on different pedals or different crank arm or a different bottom bracket bearing system. So we're going to finish taking this off and then move on. Once you get the crank arm off, sitting on your bottom bracket, you got to be very careful, but this is your part of your cadence sensor. So when this spins, on the other side we have magnets. There's nothing electrical about this piece. Now note, this is all plastic, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 magnets. So it's a very low resolution cadence sensor, where higher end ones will have a bit more. Alright, so we're finally ready to remove the bottom bracket on this bike. I had to get a special tool for that. It's in here. We pulled out the bottom bracket finally, and it's a sealed cartridge bottom bracket, so everything's sealed up in there. So that's actually that's a pretty good thing to know. It's a decent quality bottom bracket actually. So okay, so we got everything out of here, so now we just need to clean it up and get it lubricated, and then we can put everything in. Alright, so we've hidden another problem. So when we took off this bottom bracket, we got to take a good look at our cadence sensor. So when this spins, there's a sensor that reads these little magnets, and that tells the bike when to go. But one thing I want to point out that's very important in our case is this is designed to go over this type of bracket here. The two-piece crank arm set that we bought that we want to install is this. And we've run into a little problem where this needs to fit over this essentially. And then when we do get to that point, we have to figure out a way to make sure that this spins when this spins. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of troubleshooting there. Okay, so I came up with a solution. I actually happen to have these circular magnets you can get at like Home Depot, and then these are like the bolts that come with your chainring, or sometimes your crank arm set will come with it, and they fit perfectly in. Now just make sure that when you put on your magnet that the magnet is facing the right direction for the sensor. There's a negative and a positive to each side, and you'll be able to figure that out by basically if you take the magnet, you'll know which side it needs to go based on the direction that these magnets are facing. So if they don't want to touch, then they're not going to be the direction you want. If they touch, then you know that's the right direction. You want that facing outward. Now the only problem you're going to have with this, unfortunately, is you're going to have 4 points. This has 5 points. So the resolution is a little bit less, I suppose, but these magnets are bigger, so maybe it won't make a difference. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Alright, so we're going to take this for a little test run just to show that it works. Now, right here, those are the magnets. And right here, you can see that, is our sensor. So, I'm going to go ahead and give this a spin. Woo. Look at that. We are back in business. Time to do some off-roading. I'm way faster than I would normally go on this road. Wheels just get more confident. Gotta work on these brakes. Bike. A lot of dialing in you gotta do. Suspension is incredible compared to before. It just glides. Still only a 350 watt motor. About that. I like the grips. Way more control. Handlebars. Just perfect combination. So, is it worth putting the money and time into this electric bike? Well, I had a great time riding it. I think it turned out really amazing and it's really fun to ride. Obviously, the motor is not going to be any faster or any more powerful, but as far as control goes, it's a million times better. I feel like I could let one of my friends maybe ride this bike and I can ride my other electric bike and we would have just equally as a good time. One thing to mention, as you know, I had to go with a Shimano Freewheel in the back instead of the SRAM cassette that I originally planned for. So I changed out the front shifter to a Shimano shifter. I did not end up using this because it ended up being a little too short for me. If you're a shorter person, maybe you wouldn't have as much of an issue. I'm about 5'11". I ended up using the original one that came with the bike. I just spray painted it red. It makes a world of a difference for me to have that couple extra inches. If you get these pedals, you can get them on Amazon. They're under a different name. I put that link in the description with a different name, or on AliExpress as the M-9 that it's called. But just make sure you get the bigger pedals, and it's not just for people that are taller or bigger feet. I think it makes a large difference in this bike specifically because of the folding mechanism that is in between your legs. You need a little bit extra knee room, so having your legs be able to be just a little bit further apart protects you from hitting your knees against that folding mechanism. One last tip I'll recommend when it comes to the chainring, I have a 36-inch tooth chainring, I believe, and I would probably go with maybe a 42 tooth chainring just to give you a little bit extra torque. So if you guys have any questions about any of the stuff I've done on this bike, I'll try to do my best to answer them. Just post those down in the comments. And if you really liked everything, have a like and subscribe. And I think the next step is going to be, can you ride this on a mountain bike trail? Like a real mountain bike trail. Well, I'm in Florida. There's not really any mountains. We'll do our best to find something a little more comparable. We'll catch you on the next one, and wish me luck.